Were we live when I began speaking, Jeanne?
I would start over again just to be careful because the thing just popped up on my screen.
It just popped up on my screen, which is why I asked. Okay. Wonderful morning, excellent afternoon, and fabulous evening. This is Carla from MindPlore with Carla and Friends. We have had some internet issues today. In fact, I lost a panelist because of those issues, but I'm going ahead with the show anyway. Having said that, today we're talking about dreams and miracles and whether we really believe in our dreams. Sometimes because we don't believe in them, we keep the miracles from happening. And we're going to be discussing that today in a little more detail, and probably get more into it on Thursday like we did last week, because it took a while to get my brain settled with the people here. And I have a feeling that may happen again today. Having said that, I do believe that our dreams are the miracles of tomorrow, or even the miracles of today. We begin to manifest our dreams and bring them into reality as we begin to live our dreams. And what I mean by living is moving towards them. I may have a dream to teach a whole bunch of people English. It doesn't start the first day I go and begin it, but it happens in time. And with that, Jeanne, I'm going to let you take over so I can get this where it needs to be. And I'm so happy to be here with Shafaat Hashmi and Jeanne. And Jeanne, who will be logging in a few minutes. So maybe I should keep talking because she has some quotes she wants to share. And people, you will be dealing with our internet issues. Shafaat, can you hear me? Shafaat.
Yeah, you're breaking up, Carla. I think there's some bad connection, so it's not really working out.
Shafaat, are you there?
Yep, I'm here, but I guess you just dropped out.
Well, I am back now, and if you would give me your thoughts on the topic, I would be very, very happy.
Sure, but we can't see you, Carla.
I can't see you right now, and we are live streaming at the moment. I can't see you right now. Now yep. I can see you.
Okay, now
we're just going to keep a smile on our faces and get this going. So, can you tell me your thoughts on the topic, please?
I think it's a lovely topic. Dreams. and how they manifest what you would like to do in your life. To me, we usually think that dreams are coming from some heavenly places, or sometimes they're just something happening in our nerves, and something gets connected, or we observe something, or we've experienced something and it appears as a dream. That is all true. But at the same time, I always used to wonder why a certain dream would come at a certain time of your life, or why would you dream about something at a certain time of your life? Why couldn't I dream to be someone when I was 8 years or 7 years? So, I think dream is more of a message that we receive, and at a certain time, at a certain point. And that is what dreams are all about to me.
And I miss 90% of it, unfortunately. And we just got Jeanne back.
I swear, Carla, you are a powerful manifester. You were talking about technology problems, and my computer crashed, and I'm across the country, 3,000 miles away.
I want to tell you, I have had all of a sudden. So I have been here, gone, and back. And you put on your camera.
Okay, that wasn't me. I hope the visitors that are watching us, our viewers, are patient, because I've been doing this with Carla for a year and a half now, and I've never experienced this kind of weirdness.
Yeah, it's okay. Sometimes we all go through this. So what Carla asked me was that what is my take on the topic, and maybe Jeanne, you could go ahead with that.
Yeah, last week we were talking about dreams, and do your dreams make your put your life together, or does the external world make change your dreams? And it took us a while to get deep enough to answer Carla's questions. And so at the very basic part of what this week I asked was, do you believe in yourself? We all have dreams, we all have ideas. I want to say it was Peter Drucker who said a plan is a dream with action, or something like that. So dreams are great until you put very practical steps to accomplish it. And to do that, you have to believe. And that's a big question, because one of the things I've become very aware of is the kind of limiting beliefs that we all have that come from other people's stories for us. So we don't even know, to be honest with you, that we have a limiting belief. If your parents said to you when you were a 4-year-old child, children are to be seen and not heard, when you're 50, you still have a belief buried deep in there, deep in there, that children are to be seen and not heard. And I had a discussion with several friends. We were driving I live in Sacramento, and I was going into the Bay Area, and I had a couple of friends in the car, and we were chatting, and I literally said, nobody wants to hear what I have to say, which was another way of me saying children are to be seen and not heard. And the ladies in the car was like, stop right there. You've got 3 people in this car that want to hear what you have to say. And that was one of those moments, Shafaat, that you go, shh, because you don't even realize that you have this belief that's buried so deeply that it colors how you show up in the world. And that's why I like to think about it as, do you believe? Just very simply, dreams can become a reality if you believe it. Miracles can happen if you believe it. So as Carla's getting reconnected, I found some interesting quotes I wanted to share with everybody, and I'll put it on the Facebook page once my technology settles down. And the first one is from Stephen King. Stephen said, "Amateurs sit and wait for inspiration. The rest of us just get up and go to work." And that kind of encapsulates it. You can't wait for something to hit you and then go write the story. Anybody who's read a Stephen King novel knows he works really hard to scare the heck out of you. And he does a pretty good job. Martin Luther King, who's famous for the "I Have a Dream" speech, said, "You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step." And that reflects one of my favorite Lao Tzu comments about the journey of 1,000 miles. It starts with that first step. So when I feel overwhelmed, or I feel like I can't do something, I actually say to myself, what's the first step? And, whether it's taking out a canvas and starting a painting, or believe it or not, changing my granddaughter's little diaper so that she, you're getting her to sit still so I can do it. You just have to start doing it, and you'll be surprised when it's taken care of. And then Walt Disney said, "First think, second believe, third dream, and finally dare." You think about that. You contemplate an idea, you start to believe in it, you dream about what it could mean, and then you dare to do it. That's very, very powerful. And then finally, General Colin Powell wrote, "Always focus on the front windshield and not the rear view mirror." And that kind of made me think of something Carla put out yesterday on her Facebook page. And Carla, you'll have to probably correct me, but it was something about being reminded to look at what you have versus what you don't have. And when you're focused on what you have, the successes that you've done, the lessons that you've learned, you have a different perspective. So when you see something else, you see it from that lens versus the lens of, oh, woe is me. So how we see, how we interpret the world around us directs how our dreams can come true. And that's how I pulled it all together.
And that's true. What I wrote on my page, to me, was extremely powerful, because I was making a decision of what I needed to do for me to keep myself out of the doldrums. And we all get stuck. But the moment that I began to think, hey, this can be, it can happen. I can make things become real. I began to also see, when things did not seem very real, I can change my thinking pattern. And the magic began to happen again. And as the magic grew, it grew manyfold. Like today, I've been in a addiction problem. But I decided that we're going to do this. And when I made that decision, things began to change. Shafaat, what do you want to say about that?
I think the moment you dream about anything, the change has taken place already. A lot of people do not dream at all. They are too scared to dream, just to begin with. As Jeanne rightly said, people are scared of how to, they have limiting beliefs. And sometimes people are limiting beliefs that they are afraid to dream. So I think the change begins right there. Now, the question is, not everything that you dream, you're supposed to achieve. Sometimes you just dream because it's more of an idea that can guide others. It's about you dream about something, but there's somebody else who's going to execute it for you. So one should never feel low. One should never feel heartbroken that, oh, I've dreamed for so much, but I've only achieved this much. It's fine. And then similarly, the most important part one needs to see is your fit, your natural, spiritual, physical, professional fit with your dream. Because there's a reason that we've all gone through a certain experience. There's a reason we are born in a certain family, in a certain place, in a certain childhood, certain school, college. There's a reason you're being set up to do something. And we need to respect that how we have been set up, because then 10 years later, 5 years later, you'll have a dream and you're like, oh my God, I can do this. And then you realize, wow, I have so many of these experiences, so many people I met, so many relationships I can leverage, and oops, yeah, this dream can work. And that fit is where the next step comes, which Jeanne also mentioned already, that you need to take the first step. Sometimes you don't have to look at the whole staircase. And yes, you take the first step. You might fall. It's okay to fall from the first step. It's okay to fall from the second, third, fourth, fifth step. But it's not okay to fall from a top level. So sometimes achieving the dream is not that difficult. Sustaining it and making it work for a longer period of time and, keeping it up there, that is important, because the higher you go, the harder is the fall.
We also have the capability of having multiple dreams and overwhelming ourselves. I just had a discussion with one of my good friends and clients about balancing our workloads with our life loads. She showed me a very long list of all the things that she had to do. My question for her was simply, does this move your business forward? Because we were talking about her business at the time. And I asked her in a sense, I said, are these A, B, or C priorities? And she looked at me for a minute and I was like, A, has to be done no matter what. It's timely and it's critical. B, should be done, could wait till tomorrow, but needs to be on the list. C, would like to be done, really want to do it, not sure how important it is. And when I get overwhelmed, I look at that list of C's, because usually you have 2 or 3 A's, 5 or 6 B's, and a whole load of C's. And those C's get moved over into what here in the United States we refer to as the round file, or basically it's the garbage. You go, oh, I don't have to do that. You can delegate it to somebody. You can decide that doesn't need to be done, whatever. And then you look at your priorities again. Your A's and B's are now doable. And it's how you look at things, how you interpret it. So when I feel overwhelmed, I'm constantly looking at what can I release? And sometimes when I'm doing that, the release has nothing to do with the work on my table. It has everything to do with those limiting beliefs I referred to, and the thoughts that stop me in my tracks. Oh, I really need to watch every single movie in the Marvel universe before I can watch this new one. And everything has to stop until I watch. That's hours. But we do that. I use that as an example, though. There's like, I shudder to even put a word, but I think there's like 12 or 13 or even more movies in the Marvel universe that, that's all the Thors, the Iron Mans, the Avengers, all those movies, which are really great movies, very entertaining, especially if you have kids with you. But that's not my priority in life. But that's what we do. We put something in that's not necessarily going to move you forward as our biggest priority because it's time sensitive versus what's goal sensitive, what's dream sensitive. And so, Carla, what you wrote about, I often refer, and you know this, I refer to the rose-colored glasses, changing the lens that we look through life, looking at what you're grateful for, looking at what you have, and not focusing on what you don't have. I mean, honestly, I don't have the latest Tesla. I would really like it, especially with gas prices going up. And believe me, I know our gas prices are going up, but it has nothing, it pales on what the gas prices around the world have been. So I'm not complaining. I actually said that to a friend of mine as we saw the prices going above $6. I'm like, yeah, when I was in the UK, it was like $10 a gallon. So I'm not complaining, but I really would like to have a Tesla. Does that end my capabilities to do my job? No. I'll probably end up getting one of those Subaru hybrids because I like the fact that it has that automatic braking thing. So if I'm, slow on my reflexes, it'll brake for me. I like that. That's a safety thing. That now becomes more of a priority. So it's how we make decisions and what, and how we look at the world really changes. Do our dreams come true? Do we open ourselves to miracles? When I look at my granddaughter's little face, and she gives me has a way of wrinkling up her nose and moving her lips around. That's a miracle. That's a miracle, because 4 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that I had grandkids, and now I've got 2 beautiful grandkids, and that's a miracle. So you become a different person when you rethink how you see the world.
The other thing is we forget it's even a miracle when we open up our eyes at night or in the morning, or that we are breathing on a regular basis. And I don't even know if I'm here right now.
Yes, you are. I can see you. I can hear you. Which, by the way, is a great gift that you can give to anybody when you take a moment and you say, I see you, I hear you. Because at the very, very basic level, the most basic level of who we are, we want to be seen and we want to be heard. And that's one way we can support each other.
And support also comes just from a simple smile. Someone smiled today and you feel better. Someone maybe opened a door, but we don't look at the miracles that come to us every day. The fact that we're breathing, in and out is a miracle. So we can take the miracles and go to the most simple thing that happens in our lives and be grateful that we're doing that. Be grateful that you have a pair of shoes. Or if you don't have shoes, you at least have feet to walk on. Because there may be someone who doesn't have those feet. Or someone who may not have shelter above their head. There's tons of homeless people in the world. Yes, Jeanne?
As you know, and many of our viewers know, I was teaching 5, 6, and 7-year-olds for summer school this year. And prior to that, I was teaching in a school that was 1st grade to 8th grade. And in every grade that I taught, I actually told them something I'd like to share. Is it okay if I share?
Sure.
I asked the older kids specifically, do you want to know the 1-word secret to school? The 1-word secret to school. And they'd go, you know how older kids, middle school kids can be a little bit standoffish. But first I would talk to them about breathing. So picture 16, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. I'm teaching them to breathe deeply. And I'm telling them, when you feel overwhelmed, take that deep breath. So I taught them to pick their hands up as they were breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let it whoosh out, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was our daily exercise every morning to get them to be aware And then when they were getting overwhelmed, I could say, take a deep breath, and they knew what I was talking about. But the one word for school also works with this idea of changing how we think, and that's practice. We didn't learn to ride a bike the first time. We had to fall a few times. We didn't learn to walk. I'm watching my granddaughter as she's learning to walk, and she gets out and she's, wobbling about, but she puts one foot in front of the other and she's learned to walk. It took practice. It takes practice to change how you breathe from the shallow, somewhat stressful breathing to that deep breathing to relax. There's lots of things we can practice. And when you start to feel yourself going down in that spiral of, oh, woe is me, oh, the world hates me, oh, I'm never going to get it, that's when you take that deep breath and you kind of sever the thinking that's driving that. And that's the fight or flight thinking that comes from the amygdala, kind of, it's often called the monkey brain or the animal brain. And you want to change it to the more logical. It takes practice. It takes practice to say, yeah, things are tough right now, but look at where I'm going. Or, yeah, I've got a half-hour drive and it's going to be a bear, but oh my gosh, when I get there, it's going to be a miracle. We can change in a nanosecond how we see things. We just have to focus, as Colin Powell said, focus on the front windshield and not the rearview mirror. It's good to know what happened in the past and to learn the lessons, because, if you don't learn the lessons, you're going to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it until you learn them. So learn the lessons, but move forward.
And when we move forward, that's when the miracles begin. When we keep saying, oh, I'm stuck, I don't have enough money, I don't have my dog anymore, or whatever, we are staying in the moment that has already passed, instead of looking at the moment as it is now and moving forward. Shafaat, you've been very quiet. Do you want to add something?
I've been quietly listening, absorbing, learning, and thinking, how can I apply, all that has been shared. One thing I would like to add is that when we look at life from a macro lens, it's a miracle. And whether we look at it from a micro lens, it's again a miracle. And what does it do to us? Reflecting on who we are, why we are here, why everything and so many things are around us, it drives us towards gratitude. It drives us towards being humble, being more selfless, and sharing unconditional love. But at the same time, it drives few people, not everybody, but few people, to discover and explore further that, yes, it looks like a miracle, but why does this happen? Why somebody gets sick, and why people are cured, and why some people smile, and why some people respond to a certain way or a certain stimulus in a different way. And that is science, and that is observation. So as much as we're trying to achieve efficiency and productivity for the name of convenience and comfort, and innovating and inventing new and new products and services, it really comes from a point of observation. To me, all of us connected here on Zoom with each other in the audience, if you bring somebody from last century, they would say, wow, that's a miracle. All right. And if we go down explaining them how it got evolved, that alone would be a miracle. They might consider somebody to be a prophet, so to begin with. So we need to understand that, again, understanding, comprehending life is a miracle. It brings you gratitude. But those few 1%, 10% who actually become successful in life, they're not only those who consider everything as a miracle, but then they explore why is it a miracle? Or how could I just counterfeit it, replicate it, and take inspiration from a natural miracle and create something which is a technological or an artificial miracle that could benefit humanity. And this is how dreams really come into place, because dreams come from inspiration. I always think that, is there any color that I can imagine or any object that doesn't exist in the universe, or this element doesn't exist in the universe? I could mix them up. I could create mixtures and compounds, and I can mix things up and have a toss of a human and a base of a goat or whatever, but I'll always mix things to create something new. But can I create anything new from absolute nothingness? No, I can't. Nobody can. And therefore, we have been given infinite number of combinations, from the minutest details to the biggest of the biggest details, to get inspired, to try new things. And I believe nothing should stop you. You should be unstoppable. Yes, as Jeanne was talking about priorities and the A, B, C lists, they do work. But the question is, why some people work 16 hours a day and why they don't have a work-life balance, or people like myself who work 16 to 18 hours a day. The problem is you need to find out their driving force. What drives them to work 16 hours a day? Why are they out of balance? Or why, similarly, some people are super lazy? Or why have I seen and observed some children, some spouses to be over demanding? That, oh, I want to get that and you can't get me that, so you're not a good husband or you're not a good wife. I wanted to go there for vacations and you can take me out for vacations. The guy's broke, can't take nobody to vacations, but no, she wants to go to vacations. Or, this guy keeps demanding the wife that, hey, listen, you're working, but you need to wash the dishes all the time. The thing is, what is driving somebody to be lazy, or what is driving somebody to work harder? The answer lies in multiple things. And one of them is, how much responsibility do they take on their shoulders? How much responsibility of themselves and others do they accept? And what kind of responsibilities are they just born with? And the second thing is what kind of relationships they're into. To create that work-life balance, as important as time management and working out your priorities is, equally important is what kind of people you're surrounded with. Who do you need to prune and who do you need to rub shoulders with? And that will help you dream bigger too.
I think that's actually good advice to pay attention, to look at the macro and the micro. Understanding that dreams and miracles happen when we are in touch with our emotions as much as when we're in touch with our logical thinking. There are times, I'm sure a lot of people can understand this. There are times when you go, I really want to go down that alleyway, but something makes me not feel like it's good. So I'm going to go a different way. That's our intuition saying, there's danger there, stop. And, we are finely attuned as human beings to pick up on that intuition. We're not so finely attuned to pick up on the positive things like, I really want to sit down and write this story. This is an important story. Maybe I'll become a writer if I write this story. Oh, I'm not a writer, so I can't do that. And then we stop. And that's where the limiting beliefs comes in. But understanding that we are not just our brain is key to finding and appreciating the miracles we call life. And we are emotional beings, we are spiritual beings, we are energetic beings, we are physical beings. And I think that, at least in my world, it feels like, and I'm saying feels deliberately, it feels like we honor and value the intellectual being much more than we value and honor the emotional being. I mean, I'd like to make a confession. I hope you guys don't mind, but it's important that I declare this out loud. And that's, I'm a woman, and we tend to get a bit emotional. And I cannot tell you how many times somebody has said, now come on, Jeanne, you're getting emotional. And I really want, and I have done this a few times. I've gone, well, duh. Well, that was a brilliant statement, but I actually value the emotional side because that tells us a lot. It's the emotional side is more intuitive in the sense that if I feel danger, I know to pay attention. There have been times in my life when I didn't pay attention and I got into some skirmishes. And there are times when I did pay attention and I avoided some skirmishes. So I learned the hard way to pay attention to that. I learned the hard way to take a deep breath and calm down in the middle of a crisis. You know, as a parent, when your child is hurt, you can't lose it. You've got to take care of it, right? Well, as a communications director, and there was a crisis, I had to calm everybody else down to say, okay, now let's really look at what the problem is. And all those people who would say to me, you're getting emotional, in that moment in time, I would go, no, you're getting emotional, and we need to assess what's going on. We need to pay attention. So there's a balance that we have to get to, but we have to be aware of it. And I'm acutely aware that the spiritual side, the intellectual side, the emotional side, and the physical side all need to work together. And we need to honor it. You know, there's a kind of I'm not quite sure what I want to say. It's a strain of thought that when they talk about men from Mars and women from Venus kind of stuff, that men are single focused and women can multitask. That could be true, but women can be single focused and men can multitask. You know, we were the hunters and gatherers, you know, and so there's a lot of things that we've had several millennia of time to get into our brains as you know, normal and expected. But I think when we pay attention, as Carla's tried to bring out a few times, to our dreams and our thoughts and our wishes, and pull ourselves out of the what's expected, you know, that makes, that in itself is a miracle. You know, that in itself is something to be cherished. And you know, it's a funny story to me, at least. But there was a time where I was trying to fix something in my house, and I had called a friend's husband was coming over to help me. But I got to a point where I was like, I can do it. And I'd gone to the store and I got all the parts that I needed. And they didn't put, okay, it was a disposal I had put in, but they didn't put the electric cord to it. So the plumber who put it in said, you have to go to Home Depot and you just pick up the cord. It's real easy. Right. I picked up the cord, and then I looked at the directions, and it says, connect the grounding cord. There were 3 cords. They were all black. Well, no, one was green, one was red, and one was black. It didn't say the green one is the grounding cord. And I was getting really frustrated. He's like, what do I do? So finally, I'm under the sink tinkering away. I was like, okay, green and grounding go together. So I'm going to put the green cord here, you know, and it worked. But my friend walked in just at that point, and he's like shaking his head going, you have way too much testosterone to be a woman. And I just laughed because he was looking, I didn't realize this. He was looking forward to saving the day for me, but I was frustrated because I wanted to fix the problem, you know, and I felt good because I fixed the problem. That took me out of my level of frustration that I'd had, where I was angry at the world because I had to do yet another thing that didn't get done. And when I let go of that, we had a great laugh. And then for the next 2 or 3 years, we always would bring up that story and start laughing, and then all of our friends would laugh as well. So I like to get out of who I think people, I like to get out of who I think that I think people think I am, if that makes sense.
I
Yeah.
think what's really important is just keep the tab on why people say what they say to you, and you don't have to just consider all of that. Sorry to cut you, but I really wanted to say this to you. It is not about men or women. It is, and I won't even go into the depths of that, whether we have been pre-programmed as men to be less emotional and more macho or whatever, and women always been confined to their homes to do certain shows and have been snubbed, and all that has happened in the history. It has a genetic effect on all of us. But to be honest, we all physically, we all have the same organs except a few. And I think between the two genders, there's 99% commonality and 1% probably differences. But the problem is we'd always highlight the differences that differentiates one gender from another. But what we need to understand, we all have the same heart, the same two eyes, the same four limbs, the same kidneys, the same stomach, the same liver, right? The same two eyes. And I believe that both men and women are emotional. And I think both men and women have seen some very intellectual people.
Oh,
but what I do believe is I've been living my life in a way where I literally filter 70% of the nonsense information and content, which I'm probably forced to consume, right? So I don't really go deeper into an argument and just pick up every little thing that is thrown at me, because that will stop me to move forward. I do not have to believe in everybody's dream, and I do not have to do and consider, oh, there's this guy walking outside. He looked at me in a weird way, and I just go walk up to him and, hey, listen, why are you looking at me in a weird way? You know what? I'll just leave it. It doesn't impact me. And there are a couple of people on social media who would say, hey, Shafaat is a rude guy. Shafaat is shrewd. He's a snob because he's rich and he's successful. That's okay. That's okay. It doesn't affect my business. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect nobody. What matters is if somebody you love says it to you, that would impact me. So I think we need to understand why people say what and who is saying what. Just pick that up and then just let it.
Does it really matter what other people say? If you are in alignment with yourself, it doesn't matter whether it's your wife or your distant friend. You should continue dreaming your dream. Jeanne and I.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I thought you were finished. Please.
Jeanne and I have been discussing this actually for as long as I've known her, I think. Because we've been talking about manifestation. We've been talking about growth of awareness and, both personally and professionally. And with that growth, when we begin talking about personal things, you need to widen that thinking. I shouldn't say you, I think we all need to. We get stuck on, oh, does this person like it? And is this person going to be happy with it? It doesn't matter what they're thinking. It matters what you feel and how you are dreaming. Jeanne, I see you have something to say.
Yeah, what you just said. Okay, first I want to say to Shafaat, I actually believe that we all have feminine and masculine energies, that we have to take it to a different level. I truly believe in that. But what you just said, Carla, dawned on me to say, yeah, actually, we need to stop beating ourselves up when we think this way, because we're actually thinking like we were when we were a child, which goes back to those limiting beliefs I started out with. When I'm worried about what other people think, I'm worried about what my mom and dad are going to do. Am I going to get in trouble if I do this? I mean, that's at the very basic level. We tend to worry about things like that. If I speak up, am I going to get in trouble? If I do what I want to do, am I going to get a spanking? You know, lots of things happen when we were kids that we bring with us. And when we change to being an adult, when we change our thinking to being an adult, then the metric changes. And I can explain this in a sense. When I was going through my divorce years and years ago, it was 30 years ago, my mother was trying to tell me what to do, you know, and how to get through this. And I finally looked at her and I said, Mom, it's not safe for me to listen to this. And she didn't understand what I meant. I said, Mom, I have to handle this. I have to do this. You said you would support me. So here's how I need you to support me. And that literally changed that relationship I had with my mother. I was in my mid 30s, and I do believe that we moved from mother-daughter, mother-child to equals adults, friends. And we could have really difficult discussions about religion and politics after that. And with my mother, that was almost impossible until then. But I laid down a boundary with her so that we switched. And I did the same thing with my son when he was in his mid-20s. I said, honey, well, I kind of laughingly said, I don't care how big you are. I don't care how old you are. You will always be my baby. And there's an old parental thing. I brought you in the world. I'll take you out kind of thing. So we laugh about that. But I said, you are in charge of your own decisions. You have to reap the consequences or the awards. I can only support you in what you want to do. And you have 100% of my support. And I'm pleased to say that we have a much more adult relationship. I don't have that with all of my friends and colleagues, though. And it's something that I've become kind of acutely aware of. And it comes in the form of judgments. You know, I do have a friend who says things to me like, you shouldn't do that, or you should really think about. And I realize that she's judging a decision, and that's not her role. And so I say, you know, I'm really glad you shared your opinion with me. And I leave it at that. But it's how we interpret the world and how we change. And when we change and we let loose some of those childhood practices that until now we wouldn't have called childhood practices, but they are, and take ownership and accountability for who we are, that's when a real miracle happens. I got to tell you, I never thought I could have an in-depth conversation about politics and religion and all that with my kid. And I'm reasonably ecstatic at how brilliant he can be and how he can get to the essence of something. And his level of discussion capabilities has really exploded. It's great. And sometimes I sit back and go, believe it or not, I did that. But I only did it up to a point, and he took it and ran. So there's a level of respect we need to have for each other, to let each other know, I really like how you broke that down. I really enjoy having these discussions with you. Or my favorite lately, I'm really glad we can have this discussion, even though we don't agree. It makes life more interesting when people who don't agree can have a good discussion about things. I like knowing your point of view. I mean, the first time I said that to somebody who was trying to beat me up for my opinion, it was one of those Gestalt moments. I saw something dawn on this other person's face, like, oh, because I actually have said to many people, there's absolutely no one in this world that I agree with 100%. And that's okay. We all have opinions, we all have experiences, and there is nobody else in this world that grew up with my parents, with my 6 brothers and sisters, went to all the schools I went to as we moved around, went to the college I went to, had the jobs I had. That makes up who I am. And I am unique. And I am proud to say that. You know, and that person looked at me like, I never thought of it that way. Exactly. And that's when I look at somebody like a General Colin Powell or a Martin Luther King or a Stephen King, they found that point of transcendence and became who they were meant to be. And if I have one dream for myself, it's that I find that point and I find who I'm meant to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it is a journey, not a journey about other people. It's a journey within yourself. And everyone we meet brings us deeper to who we are. And I love it. Back to Abraham Hicks, I really listening to her a lot, is that by the contrast of what we want and what we don't want, and as we keep on making that decision, and when we start to take that decision and say, okay, I don't want that, I'm not going to focus on that anymore. It could be just focusing on a lack of money and we start worrying, I'm not going to have money to do this or to do that. But the truth is, we have everything we need at the moment we need it, whether we realize it or not. And as we begin to accept that, life begins to change. So it's a question of taking those changes and making them a part of our lives. Are we on the same page now? With all the technical difficulties today, I'm not sure.
I think so. I would just like to add this. I've been listening very closely. We need to understand that once we go with the I don't care attitude, and once we consider that, you know, it's not my job to make everybody happy, and everything that we hear is an opinion. Sometimes it's not an opinion, sometimes it's an advice. We need to understand from what point of connection is it coming from. The real mirage, the real, you know, journey that lifts humanity up is when you start moving from an individualistic vision to a shared vision. And when you start doing things not just for yourself, but for others. And that is what the differentiating factor is. It's important to understand that not everybody has great relationships. There are people in your life, and we live in a matrix, in a fabric of a society where you have certain relationships which are very important to you. And again, it's emotional. Sometimes it's strategic, sometimes they're professional, but they do hold some importance for you at that very moment of life. And you need to realize that, yes, you need to make them happy because they will bring you happiness too. I have seen, and I'll speak for myself because I'm no philosopher, but I'm a very practical person. And I'm happy when I see somebody else happy. I'm happy when
that's very normal because we are here to serve others. But in serving others, if we are doing things that are against what we need to be doing, it takes us away from what we need to be doing, then we are not really serving the other person. We're not helping them. And I think that's the point to bring up. However, we've come to the end of the show, believe it or not. And I want to thank Shafaat and Jeanne for being here today. I want to thank those who have been seeing the technical difficulties. I have been in and out and all around. And with that, we will be back on Thursday with a more normal panel, hopefully, and a more normal internet connection. I think it's because I did an upgrade and they decided to implement it during the show. But anyway, we will be back on Thursday for another MindPlore to talk about dreams and miracles and how they come together. Can we all wave goodbye? Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.